My name is Trish Schaefer, and I am the Executive Director of the Career Development Center. And we're thrilled to have with us today Annalisa Symanski, who is an alum, a double alum from St. Joseph's University. Today, we will be spending the entire day, for those of you who are joining us, every hour we will have a new guest who is a graduate of the BIA program, and we're excited for you to join to learn about the different careers, ask questions when we have Q&A towards the end, and engage with these alums who are being so very giving of their time, as Hawks always do, it seems to me. So Annalisa graduated with her BS in Business Intelligence and Analytics in 2016, and then pursued her master's in Business Intelligence Analytics, graduating in 2019, and is currently a PhD student at Notre Dame. Between that time, for about 5 years, she did work at Vanguard. So we're going to be talking to Annalisa today about both her experience at Vanguard, as well as her experience in both her master's program and her PhD program, and learn a little bit more about what led to that decision. So welcome back to Hawk Hill, Annalisa. It's good to see you.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
It's great to have you here. So I have a list of about 10 questions that I'll be asking you, and it will be followed by about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. So to the listeners, if you have questions, you can certainly put them right into the chat. We will be monitoring that, and if there's something timely, we'll interrupt the questions and get answers to that. Otherwise, we'll hold questions until the end. We'll leave about 10 or 15 minutes so that you can ask questions directly of Annalisa. So let's get started, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, so Annalisa, before we get to your current role as a PhD student, can you tell us a little bit about what a typical day looked like, or what your core responsibilities were, and just a little background of your career at Vanguard?
Sure. So I started at Vanguard immediately after my graduation as an operations associate in the Vanguard's retail department. And then I worked my way up to a user experience analyst position, which was in the client experience department. And within that 5-year period of working at Vanguard, I returned to St. Joe's for my master's degree. But my work as a UX analyst has led me now into this career as a PhD student, which I will get to. But I'll start with describing my work at Vanguard as a UX analyst. And then I'll go over my current role at Notre Dame. So as Vanguard, I was working in the client experience and digital department as an analyst. The client experience department, it works to provide a world-class experience for our clients, both on the phone and digitally through the Vanguard website. And the department worked within lab teams with interdisciplinary specialists, such as a website developer, a content strategist, product owners. We had designers and researchers, and I served as the analyst within this lab team. And we worked on a very fast, agile environment with the aim to improve the client experience. So our work was laid out in what we called a 2-week sprint, in which we would set our goals, and then within that time frame, we would aim to deploy improvements to website changes. And as an analyst on that team, I was responsible for how our clients were interacting with the website before and after these website changes were made. So we did a lot of website experimentation where I would assist developers and designers to make the changes on the website, sometimes based on client behavior data. And then we would test to see if how these changes to the new website were performing in an experimentation method. So the environment was very collaborative, and really the learning never stopped, which was great. A typical day, we would start the day every day with a daily stand-up. And this is something that's very common within a computer software or computer science field where you're working to release some type of technology. It's a meeting where everyone gathers in the morning and we talk about the progress that we made from the day before, and then discuss upcoming work from the day. And everyone from the lab is there, including developers, designers, me as the analyst, all trying to work towards that same goal. And then usually throughout the day, meetings are quite frequent. And I was usually working with our designer, website designer, our researcher, as well as a content strategist to talk about how our website was performing. And I would talk about how the website was performing from data that I would pull from the website and analyze. And then we would work together to set goals around where improvements were needed. Throughout the morning, I had a lot of time to do my own analytics. So I would use programs like Python. I did a lot of work using SQL to pull data out and analyze it, as well as Tableau. And this would help me basically explore the website and then communicate the analysis to the team. Sometimes in the late mornings, we would have something called sprint reviews, where I, as the analyst, would be responsible for giving a very short analytics update on how our website has been performing, and any of our latest experiments that we were running during the time between two different website designs to see how clients were using them. And then usually in the afternoon, there would be more planning or collaboration meetings with the lab, or I would sometimes be working on my own analysis. So the life at Vanguard, it was very collaborative, very innovative, but I had a lot of time to progress on my own technical skills in the analytics realm.
It's great. Sounds like every day was a sprint, basically.
Yes, yes, every day.
Very busy days, starting with your stand-up right to updates, et cetera. So it sounds like sounds like your education at St. Joe's prepared you well for that. That's
yes,
really,
it very much did. Very much did.
And so then it sounds like you had a great experience at Vanguard. What led you to now at Notre Dame pursuing your PhD in computer science?
Yeah, so some of the work I was doing at Vanguard, I really loved the research aspect of it. So there was always a big research question, and then I had to go and pull data, work with our team to try to answer that question or make the changes to the website. And it made me really fall in love with computer design and how humans were interacting with computers. So I started to look at industry research and academia research on human-computer interaction. And it's actually what I'm studying now at Notre Dame. I had found an advisor that where I really liked his work, and I reached out to him, and that has led me on to now start as a doctoral student.
That's great. So that is a huge lifestyle shift for you.
Yes. Yes.
So what's the biggest difference for you, or can you just fill us in on what's that like?
I think it's going back to the student lifestyle. I think everyone here knows what being a student is like, or what it feels like. It's a little different for PhD students because I have the class responsibilities, but then I'm also a research assistant and also a teaching assistant. So what I learn in class is usually directly now applied to future research goals, which is a little different than how it was in undergrad. And the class load is, it's funny because it's not so much on making sure that you're getting really stellar grades. It's really making sure that you really understand what you're learning in class and can apply that to your research. So that's how the PhD differs a little bit. But like I said, I work very closely with an advisor who specializes in this human-computer interaction. So during my day-to-day work, I read a lot of literature on previous work that's been done within the field, and then spend a lot of time brainstorming where there may be gaps in the research or how we can apply previous research into what we're working on. And within Notre Dame, I also work on a lab environment with a few other PhD and master's students, some undergrads as well. And we usually have lab meetings throughout the day where we discuss our work. And then sometimes when experiments are running or we're conducting interviews and focus groups to gather data, we spend a lot of time analyzing our results. And when we're doing that analysis, I'm taking a lot of what I learned in Vanguard and also at St. Joe's to apply those statistics and technical skills to that analysis.
Sounds exciting. Very cool. So you shared with us how, your work experience, really you started to pay attention to what was really interesting to you and that sort of thing. And that helped you make that sort of second plan for what you want to do. But many people tuning in today are at that first stage, trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? So when did you know that this was a career path that you wanted to pursue? And then the second part of that question is, once you finish your PhD, what's your goal?
Yeah. So when I was a senior in high school and was coming in as a freshman to St. Joe's, I had actually entered as a food marketing major. And I did this because I thought it was interesting. I thought I wanted to go on more of the creative side of things. But when I was taking the classes, I took Dr. Garwood's Intro to Business Statistics course. And I totally fell in love with the topic. I thought it was really powerful how we could use data and statistics to answer big questions on for a variety of topics that can be applied to many industries. And I thought the class, it was really through that class that I enjoyed taking a skill and learning a skill, such as statistics, and then applying it to some big unknown question. And in other words, throughout that class, I just felt like I had found my niche. And that love for data has carried me through my career at Vanguard, pursuing big research questions about clients, and then further, after making an impact on the company at Vanguard through Annalisas, has led me to my academic research at Notre Dame. So I was very lucky that I had gone into a classroom and really just fell in love with the topic. And I would encourage students too, if they really like something, no matter what it is within the business realm, to really go after that and work on improving skills within that area so they can continue with their careers. What do I want to do after my PhD? I actually, it's funny because a lot of people, they go back to academia with the hope to maybe be a professor or continue time within academia to do research. I would actually love to return to the industry. When I was in the industry, I did see the importance of a secondary education, whether that's a master's degree, MBA, or PhD. I did feel like to progress in your career, you did need a little bit of that extra education. But I chose to do a PhD because I wanted to contribute to the further academic research just within the broad field. And I would hope to do that in the industry one day too. A lot of industries, especially within technology, like some of the big names like Microsoft, Apple, they have these special research roles now that are dedicated just to focus on user experience within the website or applications, computer applications, phone applications. So I would be aiming in the future for that type of role.
That's great. That's great. So when you think about your time at Vanguard, what was something that you really, what you enjoyed most about your profession? And what was something that you would, if you could change it, you would?
I really love the research aspect of my profession, where these stories and unknown answers, they're come to life from data, and they would otherwise remain hidden with no means to analyze it. So analytics plays a big role in that, and I love that about working as an analyst in Vanguard. There was also a sense of fulfillment to find these answers and then contribute to improvements in Vanguard's technology, or like improvements in society, of how people were interacting with the website and how people could better use the website to improve their experience. I would say something that I wish I could change. The field it's constantly changing due to new technologies. available, and perhaps I would change the way that people in the industry are keeping on top of those changes. Sometimes it gets difficult when there are business goals and team objectives, and we're all working towards, a sprint or trying to accomplish something where sometimes there's very little time to continuously learn. Vanguard was getting better with it, where they dedicated 1 day per month to learning time, where we could go through industry trends or look at what competitors are doing, or learn a new skill that we think would be beneficial to the job. So that's something I would continue to recommend to Vanguard to change, and any industry to make sure that they're changing and making time for that continuous learning.
Mm. Yeah, sounds important. I mean, like, to your point, technology changes so rapidly that if you're not on
Yes.
top, you could really miss an opportunity, or, not solve a problem that needs solving. So,
Oh yeah.
so
Absolutely.
what has surprised you most about your career?
Like the previous question, what has surprised me is that the learning, it never stops. Even after you graduate college and you progress into the industry role. And everybody is always learning things, whether they're more tenured or whether they're new. It's always a constant learning environment within the industry or within the workforce. And there's always the opportunity to learn something new from colleagues, or maybe how different businesses are doing something differently that can be applied to the work. And in addition, it's surprised me how Vanguard had this test and fail motto. And it worked really well within my previous Vanguard team. And what this motto means is challenge yourself. And we kind of challenged ourselves as a team to test different things. And if we fail fast, and we learn from those mistakes and continue onward. And I think that this is a great motto that I've kind of carried with me now at Notre Dame, with this test and fail fail fast so you can learn from your mistakes. And you might hear that term. I think it's pretty common within sometimes software teams or the computer science field. So I think that's what surprised me the most, is this continuous learning, but then also this ability to fail within the industry and the need to fail so that you could continue to test and learn from mistakes.
Yeah, and to your point, and similar to your program at Notre Dame, it then reinforces the learning, not the grade, not the outcome, but the learning that goes on, so that you can, apply it to the next problem. So that's great. Yeah. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit and focus on actions that students need to take. And I just want to remind listeners that if you do have questions, you can post them in the chat. And I also should have said that if you're viewing this, if you want to put it in speaker view, it will put Annalisa sort of front and center for you, which is, Annalisa is the star of the show here. So I'm going to ask you about internships in a moment. But for now, what 2 to 3 experiences would you suggest that students engage in college to help prepare them for entering this field upon graduation?
Yeah, I have 3 things. So first, if you love a certain class, or if you have a passion for a class, the first thing I would recommend is speaking with a professor who taught it, and get ideas of whether they're pursuing research, or if they know any of experts that they can connect you with in the industry. I was very fortunate to have Dr. Garwood as well as Dr. Mendoza, who would always inform me of some data analytics competitions or contests to present work, where I was always working to further develop my skills and kind of start to get my name out within the industry that I do analytics work. So I would totally recommend that. 2, I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about internships, but I would gear your summer employment around the passion that you have found, so that you can gain experience within that field and start growing a network. And sometimes if you can't find the related summer employment, I would focus on improving skills and more of the technical aspects of analytics, like learning Python or learning SQL. These skills are really very highly recruited within the business industry. And I actually have an example of this. When I first started at Vanguard, I was working as an operations associate, which was very much on the retail side of things when I had entered in. And I had to really look for the opportunity of where to apply my analytics degree within that field, since it was mostly on the retail side. And through that, what I've noticed is there's usually always an opportunity for some type of analytics. So even if you have to volunteer yourself, do that as well. And that leads me into my third point of always try to go the extra mile. Volunteer to pursue work with one of your professors, or see if you can relate data or your passion to help the community to make a difference. This usually doesn't go unnoticed by employers. So it could be either within the community, or even if you're in a non-analytics type role, or a role that's maybe not within your passion, still try to express and pursue that interest within that realm to either your manager or a mentor, and try to get involved where you can maybe volunteer work outside of your duties of your job.
So that's just incredible advice. I hope that everybody was really taking notes on that. And what I heard, what the common thread for me for all of those was that you were very intentional and engaged in what was happening. And, it can be easy as a college student to just go to classes, go in, go out, and show up. But taking that extra mile and really saying, this is my career. This is how am I going to use this information, and really getting, just wringing every ounce of something out of it. Right. So I love that you are saying, just get involved, be engaged in it. It's great.
Absolutely.
So how would you say your St. Joe's University education impacted how you work, or the career decisions that you've made to date?
Well, St. Joe's has made me found my niche. And on top of that, I had professors who inspired me, and they're even very helpful now with, I still contact them now, even at Notre Dame. And St. Joe's, they gave me a lot of connections and opportunities. I noticed that there were a lot for undergrads, like the career fairs or alumni connections. That's something I even utilized after I graduated, was going back and reconnecting with alumni. St. Joe's, I've always felt like, compared to other schools within the area, since I worked at Vanguard, there were other people from different schools. I felt like St. Joe's really had the best network and the best connection within those schools. So that's something I would say is very special about the St. Joe's education. Those professors that really care about you, as well as the friendships that you're making that are going to remain connections to you in the future. So don't let go of those connections, keep them with you. And I would always say continue to return to St. Joe's even after you graduate, to continue with those connections, because they will help you within your career.
Great. So let's dig in a little bit deeper to internships. You did reference them, and I mentioned we were going to get back to that. So what types of internships should students try to secure to prepare for a career in analytics?
I would say focus on roles that highlight technical aspects of analytics. So focus on an internship in which you can apply skills like SQL, Tableau, Python to daily work. And this will help with getting a little bit more familiar with these technologies, and will increase your expertise level as well. So I've noticed that a lot of the analytics entry-level jobs, they do sometimes require some of these skills. Sometimes it may be hard to find the internships that are offering you to use these skills. But if you go into an analytics type of role, I would see if you can try to apply some of these, even if you don't know them too well. like some of the software programs like R and Python or SQL, Tableau. You may be very novice in it when you're starting as your internship, but through the work experience, that's where I really gained my skill set and expertise. So it's really important just to try to be able to apply those skills as much as possible. In addition, I would say look for something that's where you can work as a team through an internship. I think collaboration and teamwork is a very important skill to have within internships, and it leads into the job industry very well. When I was interning, I worked at QVC, which was in Westchester. And I didn't have too much of an analytics heavy position. I was in a taxonomy and systems department. So I was responsible for looking at QVC products and labeling them within different categories to store in a database. It took me a while to ask my manager, hey, can I get involved in a little bit more of this database work where I could then apply SQL and some of the skills that I was learning at St. Joe's into the field. And QVC also had a very collaborative environment. We had a team environment where we would get together and try to, they had a team project where we would work to develop a new product or a new promotion for QVC that we presented at the end of the summer. And that gave me a ton of experience with how to work with others, how to lead a team, and also how to perform an analyst role within that team, because usually sometimes within these companies, you may be the only analyst and you may have to work with other disciplines. So that can show too, how do you apply your analytics skills and apply your analytics skills also to people who may not know the area too much.
Mm-hmm. And so, Annalisa, there's a lot of opportunity for people, students and people to actually pursue certificates in different areas.
Yes.
Is that something that you think students should be focusing on at this stage? And if so, what do you think that they should, like, let's just say they can't get an internship, or they want to supplement that internship with some additional learning. Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think one of the certificates is that the like SAS certificate.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's one of them, or Tableau certificate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually had earned the certificates through some of the certificates through the master's program. But I do have to say they haven't usually been asked for usually when you're applying for an industry role. So it's really the experience that I would highlight first. See if you can get as much intern experience as possible. And then if sometimes that's not available, then I would go on to getting the certificate so that you can prove that you've learned this and you applied these skills.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And then the other thing, as you were talking about your role in Vanguard, it certainly seemed like there was some heavy project management that was going on. I couldn't tell if you were the project lead and you were managing that, and whether you were or not, do you think that students getting, some exposure to project management, either formally in a classroom or a certificate program or on the job, is helpful?
Yeah, I wasn't the project lead on the team. We did have a project manager, or what we called a product owner, that was helping with all of the deadlines and typical project management work. But I do know that's an area of analytics that a lot of people are interested in, is that project management role and using analytics to drive that field. So if someone's more interested in that, I would say try to get a little bit more of the project manager leadership type of role. I say that I'm more not on the leadership side and I'm more of on the technical side. That was what my interests were. So I was had the technical background and had the interest of leading people, but both of the opportunities are available. And I think students can seek out both of those within internships.
Great, that's great. So as we come to a close, because I do want to leave plenty of time for folks to ask questions, I have two final questions. So one, what is something that you wish someone told you when you were in school? And then what is a piece of advice you would give to students who are interested in the path that you've pursued?
So I wish someone told me that there were endless opportunities even after you graduate. I remember being an undergrad and I felt like I had the world at my fingers. I had classes and I had so many connections. And when I left undergrad, I thought I was really going to miss that piece so heavily. But your undergrad life when you leave is a part. It's a learning and something that you're going to miss, but there are so many exciting career paths and opportunities ahead, and they're really endless. So I would say don't limit yourself to even just industry. There's opportunities within academia that are also just as exciting. And if someone told me when I graduated from undergrad that I would be pursuing a PhD, I would have told them, no, you're crazy. I want to go into industry. So I would say after you graduate, go into the world knowing that there's all these opportunities for you and you can really pursue any of them. And I would say a piece of advice is don't ever give up on yourself or your passion and your hard work. It's very common that you're going to have bumps within your career path. Everybody does. And I've had them. I'm sure everyone has them at some point, but don't give up through those periods and just continue to work through them and look how you can grow in the field.
Great advice. Really great. It's a phenomenon we see in the Career Development Center, Annalisa, which is seniors, that excited feeling you had when you were a senior in high school, like, this is amazing. Like, I'm going to college and it's so exciting. So often seniors are like a little sad because they think like, oh, this is over. And I love what you said, because it's not, it's called commencement for a reason. You're starting the next phase of your life. And if you keep that open mind and really think about the learning that can happen, so many great things can come from it. So I think you've set a great example for everybody tuning in today. So I want to transition to Q&A here, and this involves now the folks who are tuning in to contribute. And Scott, you certainly, and Jarrett, you're free to ask questions as well. So you can either use the raise hand icon if you're tuning in directly, or if you're in a classroom, you could approach the podium to ask the question. So I'm going to pause for a moment and give folks the opportunity to think about what they want to ask Annalisa while we have her right here, an expert in front of us. And Annalisa, if you teach, you'll know that this is to be expected, right? So if you do find yourself in the classroom, there's that time. All right. Scott, do you have any questions as we were going through that you, as your work with students? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, Annalisa, thank you so much for all of the insight. I know that Trish asked a little bit towards the end there about, like, pieces of advice that you would give. Did anybody really give you a piece of advice when you were younger that you thought, hey, this, I followed through on it and it really has come into play? Or even opposite, did somebody give you a piece of advice that didn't work out? I know sometimes that's the best outcome, even of an internship, right? We tell students all the time, a great outcome of an internship could be that you realize it's something that you don't want to do. So have you had any experiences that you can talk to like that?
Yeah, I remember a piece of advice that I remember getting, Dr. Mendoza. He was my freshman year advisor. And I do remember sitting with him and in his office and talking about my, as a freshman, I think, or a sophomore, and talking about my experience in the future. And I remember that he was talking to me about how he was pursuing his PhD. And he did give me a little bit of advice there about like, that could be an opportunity for you in the future. And it's something that I had remembered after I graduated, and I contacted him asking him to write my letter of recommendation. So it's interesting that he did initiate that piece of advice, which I took. For pieces of advice that I didn't take, I'm sure that there's a ton, or maybe that didn't work out. You know, when I was entering in as a food marketing major, there was a lot of, I did have a lot of questions, and I was, you know, trying to gather that from people within the industry or professors about how to progress in that field. And a lot of the internships that they recommended, I didn't necessarily pursue, or a lot of some of the research or data competitions that they recommended, I didn't necessarily pursue.
Great.
We have a question from Jared Herms, who's a fellow alum and also professor here at St. Joe's. Jared, what's your question? And nice to see you too.
Thank you. Nice seeing you and Scott as well. So Bob, thank you, Annalisa, for a great talk. So coming from someone who's obviously a working professional, but also teaches on the side students who are anywhere from newbies who want to go into data, or people who are already in data and kind of want to advance their careers, or also students who are in non-data careers and want to go in, kind of make career switches. When it comes to your kind of past industry roles, and well, it'd be internships or full-time roles, how would you say it was kind of like how would you say it's kind of the best way for you to kind of learn new skills, or be able to learn skills that you see are being applied in either the team you're in, or teams that other people are in, but you want to be able to acquire those? So what is probably your best tips for students as far as kind of pretty much trying to acquire new skills within industry?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost is it's definitely the experience, and that experience can come from within the classroom, working with, getting involved with a professor or a faculty advisor on a project or a competition. I do know that, or I think they still offer a lot of competitions within analytics where students can work as a team and then submit a final analysis. And throughout those experiences, you're really gaining a lot of technical skills, as well as teamwork and collaboration skills. So I would say the experience is first and foremost. Also, I do know that Dr. Garwood also hosts a Tableau user group in which students can go to and try to progress within their Tableau skills. So I think that's the most important to get involved in. Second, when you're in the industry, sometimes it is hard to keep up with continuing learning when you're not necessarily within, not taking classes, or you're not going back for a master's. There's a variety of resources that you can use to improve your technical skills. The Vanguard gave us licenses to something called Data Camp, which is an online learning environment to learn some technical skills like Python, R, SQL, and it will help you both within a data science career as well as a data analyst path. So you can pursue either of those opportunities within Data Camp. Also, a lot of the industry provided Udemy resources where you can go in and take certain classes that are usually between 15 and 20 hours long. So you usually can't just sit down for the whole day and do it. You want to divide it up. But they give you Udemy gives you a lot of practice work where you can expand on those technical skills as well. So that's how I would improve within the industry. But I would say that try to take advantage of any of the experience that you can get first to set a baseline of those skills, and then put the technical skills on top of that.
Great. Annalisa, that U to me, is that the letter U, the number 2, like what if people want to look that up? Is it?
Udemy, UDEMY.com.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. So we have a question in the chat, which is how much did networking have to do with each of your career stages from St. Joe's to now?
Yeah, it was big. It was definitely big. Getting the job at Vanguard, initially, not so much, actually. I had met a few people from Vanguard at a career fair, and I had entered in as an operations associate. So I do think that meeting the Vanguard people at the career fair did help me with getting the initial interviews for that, for my first entry-level role. But when I was in Vanguard, there was a huge networking was really big within the industry, especially if you wanted more of an analytics type role. So I did network with a lot of these different departments that I thought were interesting. And when you network, I would recommend asking a lot of questions about what someone is doing. Like, for example, when I was an entry-level operations associate at Vanguard and I was trying to learn about a specific analytics department, I would ask a lot of questions about that department, but then I would also try to frame how I thought I could contribute to that team later in the future, or more of the skills that I would need in order to get to that position. So when you're networking, it's definitely like a two-way street. You ask a lot of questions, but then also throw in how you think that you can benefit the team in the future, or how you would like your goals to progress to that team. It was through networking that I got a lot of my analytics roles, and had worked my way up within Vanguard. And then further, networking was also very applicable within my role now at academia. I had reached out to my advisor, or the professor that I'm working under here at Notre Dame, before I had applied, and asked him a lot about his work and his research interests and where I thought my skills could be applied. And I think that was really a critical step for transitioning into academia, is having that network connection. So I could learn a lot about what I would be doing, and a lot about how I could contribute in the field. So I would say networking is very important. It's something you really should dedicate a lot of your job to, and a lot of your college career to as well. And always remember too, it's a two-way street with networking. Try to answer as many questions as possible, but then also try to contribute as much as you can too.
Great, that's great. We have another question in the chat, and Quinn would like to know, how did you find your internship and what made you want to apply for it?
Yeah, so I think I actually, I found my internship on one of the St. Joe's career websites. There were, the one big one that I had was before my senior year at QVC, which I had found there. I wanted to apply to it. It's funny because I had talked a lot about trying to find an internship with where you can get the technical aspects for it. The reason why I say that is because I didn't necessarily do that within my internship. I went and I really liked the role that they had at QVC. It seemed to be very collaborative. I liked the company, and I thought I wanted maybe more of a bigger company experience, which was why I had applied there. But I didn't necessarily go after the technical aspects of that role. So when I got to the internship, I then had to see where I could apply some of what I was learning into that role. And then same for another internship that I had the year prior, where I was working at a very small accounting firm, where I was working as a marketing analyst type of role. I went after that more for the collaboration and not so much the technical skills that maybe I would be learning. But both of them I did find through the St. Joe's career website. I think that's a really good option to finding things. And also, if you network early and maybe professor, I know a lot of my friends had a professor that sometimes had an opportunity for an internship somewhere or knew of someone that was hiring, where you could apply to that too.
Great advice. So I'm not seeing any more in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised, and we are coming up against our time here. So Annalisa, we're going to give your voice box a break here. I know you're trying to keep the coughing fits to a minimum here.
Yes.
You did a great job. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've provided some great insight for the students and for people who are just trying to really figure out like what's next for me and what do I need to do. So as a hawk, you're like all of your other hawks. You're so super duper helpful. We really do appreciate you being giving of your time and wish you all the very best in your PhD program and beyond. And just a reminder to the viewers that this session was recorded. So if you do want to come back and see it within a couple of weeks, it will be on our YouTube page. So Annalisa, thank you again. It was great meeting you.
Thank you. It was very much a pleasure. And I would please, anyone can connect with me on LinkedIn too, and happy to chat more.
Very generous of you. Thank you so much. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.